Hi, good evening, folks. Mike Rasmussen here. So I am going to do another update for everyone about the town council meeting that was this evening at Town Hall. So it's September 20th. For folks who didn't see the last video, I'm going to try and do a little Facebook Live update that kind of sums up what has transpired at each one of the council meetings. Certainly folks are able to attend now in person. We have the council meetings up on Zoom, but my thought here was to have a short little update that sort of runs through the big items. I'm certainly not going to touch on absolutely everything that was said in the council meeting, and because it's on Facebook, you guys can go back and you can watch it at a later date if you're not here at 8:30 at night, on the edge of your seat waiting to find out what happened at council this evening. Certainly, the council meeting had a pretty short agenda this evening. There were a couple of different items that we needed to do, a couple of resolutions and things we needed to approve, which I'll touch on. But every council meeting starts off with updates from each one of the council members. Each committee and each council member has an opportunity to give a short update about things that are going on, either in their neighborhood or on the committees that they're working on. And that's just kind of a nice little way to make sure everybody's on the same page. And sometimes items come up for discussion. It's a nice little piece there. So a couple of the big things that were hit on by a few members of council. Tomorrow is National Night Out. The Smyrna Police Department hosts this event. It is down on Market Street. I believe it starts at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. And National Night Out is an effort to encourage more people to come out, be outside, be out in their community. There's going to be tables from community events set up, or community organizations set up there. The town will have a couple of tables set up out there. It's just a neat way to go around and see some people. Typically there's some bounce houses and stuff like that. We'll be out there. I know in the past we've had our kids like fingerprints done and things like that. That are part of Crime Stoppers and things along those lines. So nice little resource. It should be a beautiful evening, hopefully. So that's going to be on Market Street Plaza tomorrow evening, hosted by the Smyrna Police Department. Other big items. So the town is working on our budget for 2022. The first draft of that budget will be presented to town council next month. So the plan is for that is the October 18th council meeting. Typically by the second meeting in November, we have the town budget approved for the following year. So we follow a fiscal year that is January 1st through December 31st, unlike the state or the federal fiscal years. So we use the calendar year, and we'll be approving our 2022 budget by the middle of November, and the first take of that's going to be discussed at our council meeting on October 18th, if you're interested in that fun stuff. Another big item that was mentioned in the updates coming up. So on September 30th at 6 p.m., there's going to be a planning meeting at the Smyrna Opera House for the North Main Street project. This is part of our due diligence to bring people out who will likely be impacted by what ultimately will be a large infrastructure project. Most folks know South Main Street now, from Four Corners all the way down to Lake Como, has been all the underground utilities have been redone. We're still waiting on Verizon, like we were last meeting, to come and take down their utilities, but ultimately there will be no above ground utilities and all new underground utilities, so water, sewer, stormwater, for South Main Street that'll be complete. The next big phase for downtown is to do that same piece of work from Four Corners all the way up to Glenwood Avenue. Ultimately, there's a lot of people who live along that street. It is one of the oldest streets in town, and the underground infrastructure there is in bad need of repair so that we don't have any sort of failures. But it's going to be a big project. It's going to impact a lot of people. It's going to take a significant amount of time, and there's going to have some planning meetings to make sure that we hear from people who live along the street. Folks who live on North Main Street have been notified about this meeting. This won't be the only one. There's going to be multiple meetings where people will be able to give input, hear what the plan is, raise their concerns and questions and things like that. Hopefully to stem off some of the issues and things that would ultimately come up later on in the process. I could tell you that from council's perspective, we are planning on investing a lot more up front for this project in the way of identifying potential challenges and issues. That was not done very well for the South Main Street project, which was planned and done a couple of years ago, and they missed a lot of things. And ultimately that led to delays in having to order new stormwater pipes, deal with a whole variety of underground things we didn't know about. So our plan on this side, while it's more expensive up front, is to make sure that we do the engineering work to make sure that the North Main Street project is on budget and done when it's supposed to be done. So you'll hear more about that, but if you are downtown or you think you're going to be impacted by it, Opera House on the 30th of September, 6 p.m. To have the first of these planning meetings. I'd mentioned at the last video, and I've posted it up on here before, the Parks and Rec Committee has been running a survey. They've got about 300 responses to the survey to find out what people would like to see in their parks. What are the kind of amenities that people think are missing in town? The big three that raise to the top right now, from what they've gathered, are walking and bike paths. So some of those activities, a dog park, no surprise on that one. And then I think fourth on the list, pretty close behind those other ones, was some sort of a splash pad. So great. The survey is still live. You can go up and you can fill out more of them. It's on the town website if you'd like to give some feedback there. We were planning for this weekend to have a grand opening for the 2 new basketball courts that were put in. That was supposed to be on the 25th. That is going to be rescheduled. We don't have a rescheduled date for it yet, but there will be a grand opening to sort of formally open the new basketball courts. Some little things that need to be done still there, some signage that needs to go up, and water bottle filling stations that need to be installed. But if you haven't been out and seen the new basketball courts, they're great and they're being used all the time. So it's pretty cool. Couple of things coming up downtown that are kind of fun and new. On October 6th and October 20th, Parks and Rec Committee is going to be hosting line dancing downtown on the square. Both nights it's going to start at 6 p.m. Line dancing isn't necessarily something I know much about, but I'll probably be out there at least one of those nights. Certainly bring the kids and let them. I'm sure they'll get into it more than I will and probably do a much better job. But that's you'll hear more about that once the flyers for that go up. But that's going to be October 6th and October 20th at 6 p.m. out on the square. Another big one. So on November 30th, we're going to be doing the town's annual Veterans Day celebration and Veterans Day dedication. So in the past, we did this last year, but it wasn't exactly the same because of COVID. But every council member has the opportunity to put forward and honor a veteran that's in our community. You'll probably see the banners that hang along Glenwood Ave, Main Street, Commerce Street. They give honor to somebody who is part of our community who's served in the armed forces. So that event will unveil the banners there. We have an opportunity to introduce the veterans in our community and say a few words. That is going to be also at the Smyrna Opera House on November 30th at 6 p.m. It's a little ways away, so you'll hear about it again. But that's going to be the Veterans Day celebration. So those are the updates from the committees. I had an update from my committee. So I have the opportunity to work on the Smyrna Main Street Coordinating Board. We had our meeting this last week. The Main Street Coordinating Board was created to help re-energize some of the work that happens in downtown. So really we're talking about Main Street, Commerce Street, and the couple of blocks right around there that is that core of like the old historic downtown in Smyrna. There's a lot of neat stuff that is going on, but there's also, no surprise, a lot that can be done. And so the goal of this board is to try and identify projects, programs, and take some action on things that we think could help improve the downtown. A couple of the things that we identified are actually stuff there's already a lot of work on. One is that the town has, through the Downtown Development District, through historic redevelopment tax credits, and through something called an opportunity zone, we have a number of different incentive programs that impact people in the downtown who want to make investments either in their homes or if they're a business owner in their business, or want to purchase a home or a business in the historic area. So neat programs. We need to do a better job talking about those programs. I get a lot of folks reach out to me who are interested in potentially opening a business in Smyrna. And it's something that I share. And we've got members of our town staff who are very, very well versed in how these programs work and can help people access some of these funds. Some of it is tax credits that ultimately helps you down the road. Some of it is grants that are money that can come back from you if you make qualified improvements. So there is money out there. Ultimately, it's every little bit helps when you're undertaking a big project like that. So we're going to do a little bit better job of telling the story of what those things look like. And then we're also talked a lot about exploring some of the facade improvements that we might like to see in downtown, some of the landscaping and signage improvements that we think could just make downtown a little bit more livable. And more to come on that. It's a pretty nascent effort. We've only been meeting for a couple of months at this point, but the Smyrna Main Street Coordinating Board is going to be hopefully keeping some projects moving downtown, and I get to be the chair of that, so it's a lot of fun for me too. Those were the big updates on the idea of agenda items. We had actually 4 agenda items from the council this evening. The first was the first reading of an ordinance to update the regulations regarding parking of trailers, boats, and off-highway vehicles. This is just updating some language that exists in the code already, basically saying that you can't park a boat or a trailer on one of the town streets or in a town public area or in your front yard. It's a quality of life thing that comes up from time to time when people park vehicles that are not registered road vehicles in places where they ultimately shouldn't be, and we get neighbors who call and complain about that. So this was clarifying something that was already in code to make it pretty clear that you couldn't park these things in your front yard or in a public parking place and things like that. The second item was another first reading to update some also existing language in the code about trash receptacles. So most people know this, which is that you can put your garbage cans out after 4:30 the day before your collection, and that you have to have them brought in before midnight the day of your collection. The reason for that is that we don't want your garbage cans sitting out on the street for the entire week, or if your collection's on Friday and you're not around and they sit out in front of your house the entire weekend. Again, this is another thing we get complaints about quite a bit from council, because ultimately, if you're driving down the street, you don't necessarily want to see lots and lots of garbage cans sitting outside. They aren't the most attractive thing. I don't think there's any way to make them really attractive. But the idea here is that we need to clarify some of that language to make sure that people know what the expectations are, to make that abundantly clear, and also to give our town staff the ability to go along and provide people with a warning or a citation if they are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is ultimately putting their garbage cans away in a way that don't become an eyesore for their neighbors or for people visiting in our community. So a clarification there. Both of those, because they're first readings, those are things that are going to have to be read 3 times, which means 3 council meetings. We'll have to vote on those ordinance changes. So I'll just let you know when they go. But all of that passed unanimously. It was both passed unanimously this evening. The third one was actually a contract award. So there is a large infrastructure project similar to the North Main Street project, though not quite as big, for East Commerce Street. There's a water and sewer upgrades that are necessary to make sure that that East Commerce Street, so East Commerce Street is heading east from Main Street out to Route 13, over Route 13, and heading out towards Route 1. On Route 6, basically, East Commerce Street. The first part of that construction, we voted to award the Phase 1 piece to Adel Construction. This actually is doing some infrastructure on George's Alley, some of the homes and businesses there, to make sure that their sewer is being routed in the correct way, so that ultimately when we start on the other pieces, we know that everything is heading in the right direction. So it's a smaller contract. It's just under $162,000 that we awarded to Adel Construction in order to get those pieces underway, and they're meeting with the homeowners and going to undertake that project. It should be done before the end of the year. And then the last big piece that was on the agenda this evening was scheduling a hearing. So there are a number, if you've lived in town for a long time, you've probably seen some of these. There are a number of alleyways that show up on the map that actually don't exist in real life. When the town was laid out, there a lot of alleys were created behind homes with the idea that people might want rear access into their house. But in the end, those alleys never got built, and there was never any reason to build them. And so we have been slowly abandoning some of those alleys. And it's a pretty complicated process. You have to work with each one of the homeowners. In the past, that could take years to get all of the homeowners to sign on to, hey, we're going to give you, an extra 20 feet on your backyard because the town is abandoning this right-of-way that we had for an alley in your backyard. We've made some improvements to the town charter to make that a bit easier this year, because instead of having to get approval from every single person, we can give a blanket approval, so it doesn't take years to actually go through this process. So we've just restarted that for the what is called South Locust Street. There's an alley to the west side of South Locust Street between East Fraser Street and running north towards East Commerce Street. And we're going to go through the process of abandoning that, which ultimately means those homeowners, they've probably already been mowing this piece of property, but it just hasn't technically belonged to them. It'll give them a little bit more property, and ultimately get something off the town that the town doesn't really need. So those are the main items that we talked about at the council meeting this evening. If you have any questions about any of them, I'm absolutely happy to go into more detail where I possibly can. The only other thing I would say is, so we have our next council meeting coming up. That is going to be on October 4th. And it's going to be at 7 o'clock in Town Hall. It's also going to be available for you to Zoom into if you want to do that. We tried tonight to try and live stream it on YouTube, but we had some interesting feedback loop that it created, and it didn't end up working out. But in the end, someday, hopefully, we hope that we can actually live stream these as well. But if you'd like to participate live with us, either come visit us in Town Hall or sign on to the Zoom link that you'll find on the town website, and you can pop in and say hi. So that's my update for this evening. Thank you very much. Again, if you have any questions, please, happy to reach out and get you any information that you need, and hope to see you at National Night Out tomorrow night, 6 o'clock on the Market Square. And some of the other events coming up will be out there too. Line dancing, that's going to be a little bit rough for me. We'll see. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.